and you guys may have received supervision from him as well. Also brought to you by Becky, Grace, and myself. So thank you guys. Thanks for making this training. All right, let's move on, please. So consequences for behavior. When we're thinking about consequences for behavior, we want to think about these three things. These are the three possible outcomes for a behavior, right? That we could, behavior strategies. One is reinforcement, right? And we hear so much about reinforcement. And actually, we're going to be doing a reinforcement training about describing. The whole hour will be about reinforcement. But you know, this is what's happening, right? This is when we come into a case and we start to see challenging behaviors. In my mind, I'm assuming that those behaviors, and I'm correct, are leading to some type of reinforcement, right? That is why they continue, and that is the definition of reinforcement, that these behaviors are going to continue into the future, which is the definition of reinforcement. So any behavior, the behavior you see right now, me doing this, has been reinforced in the past, probably by social attention, right? And that is why you see it today. So I want you, you know, people ask, what behaviors are becoming reinforced? Look around. Those are the behaviors that have become reinforced in the past. So that is what reinforcement means. What does extinction mean? Yeah, so it's a consequence that is withholding reinforcement. So when people say extinction procedures, what that means is that we are taking a previously reinforced behavior and now we're going to withhold reinforcement. So for instance, my same example with my hands, now you guys look away, you don't pay any attention to me, you withhold that social attention that maintained my behavior in the past. We would call that an extinction strategy, right? So that could be one of our strategies we put into a plan for a problem behavior, perhaps. And we're going to get into the problems with that a little later in our discussion. And then finally, punishment, which is not something we would do. We don't want to lead any behavior to punishment because we know better ways using reinforcement. We know better ways possibly using extinction strategies. Punishment isn't a good strategy to use for a few reasons. One of the reasons is because the punisher, the person who's getting punished, learns how to punish other people. We are modeling a bad behavior that now that person is going to learn how to punish other people. A lot of times people that are punished, especially adults, are going to punish the people that are punishing them, right? And many times we get called into a case because these punishment strategies are kind of backfiring on the caretaker. Sometimes, though, I just want you guys to know that punishment is used in ABA therapy for very severe behaviors. Many times the punishment strategies need to be approved by a governing body, like the government, like the governor in Florida, for instance, recommended for a woman that was eye gouging, self-stimulatory behavior. Other reinforcement and extinction strategies didn't work. So she had to go to the state government, the BCBA had to go to the state government and ask to shock this person, given adversive stimuli as a consequence when she eye gouged because she was losing her vision. The governor of Florida declined that request to use that type of intervention to treat this behavior. So the family uprooted themselves and moved to a different state that allowed this to happen. Unfortunately, this woman did wind up going blind from eye gouging behavior. So in these very extreme circumstances, it can be used. We do not use it. And I just want you guys to be aware of the three types of interventions that can be used to treat behaviors. And of course, our main move here is reinforcement, right? That is what we're going to be talking a lot about as we move forward. So these are the consequences for behaviors that we could consider when we're writing our behavior support plan and delivering ABA therapy. So differential reinforcement, what is it? So this is kind of like a basic definition of it. Well, we're going to reinforce one behavior that's a positive behavior. What does that mean? Probably the alternative behavior, the behavior we'd like to teach. and we're going to minimize reinforcement for a problem behavior, right? So in a nutshell, that is what differential reinforcement is. We're going to be reinforcing a good behavior or a behavior we want to see, and hopefully minimizing reinforcement for a problem behavior. Do you guys have any questions so far? Okay, great. We're going to move right along. So another example of this is we're going to maximize the positive and minimize the problem, minimize the consequence for the problem. And we're going to maximize the goodness or the reinforcement for the positive behavior or for the alternative behavior. And this is a central objective for your behavior support plan. Many times in our behavior support plan, if we have challenging behaviors we're working on, we need an alternative behavior to teach. And this is what the whole behavior support plan is centered around. Do you guys have any questions about this idea? Okay, let's continue, please. So these are the types of differential reinforcement that we're going to be reviewing today. There's more than this. These are strategies we would implement for behavior reduction. So when we're looking to reduce a challenging behavior, these are the type of differential reinforcement procedures that we can consider. Reinforce an alternative behavior, DRA, you might hear us say, differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. Reinforce an incompatible behavior, the DRI, differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors. And I like to use the word impossible behaviors there instead, and we'll talk about that a little later. Reinforce the absence of the problem behavior, which is the DRO, differential reinforcement of other behaviors. And then finally, reinforce a reduced rate of a problem behavior, the DRL, differential reinforcement of low rate behaviors. And we're going to talk about each one of them. So let's go ahead. So here's our bread and butter. Here's our golden goose. The differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. This is the ultimate differential reinforcement procedure that we would want to implement in our behavior support plans and in our practice. When I'm working with the VIP, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what you guys want to think about. This is what you guys want to put in your behavior support plans. And we talked about this already a bit. We're going to reinforce a desirable behavior, a behavior that we're going to be teaching them. What can we consider when we're teaching an alternative behavior? Yes, it's a skill acquisition. What do we want to consider about this skill acquisition and considering the individualized nature of a behavior support plan, about the behavior? What do we want to ensure? That the person is able to do what? Wow, I didn't expect that answer. I love that answer. What do we want the person? Okay, I'm going to tell you guys. We want the person to be able to do the behavior. Yeah, so we have to know this person. We have to know they're capable of this alternative behavior. So we have to know their strengths. If someone's proficient in sign and they're unable to speak vocally, we're not going to be teaching them an alternative behavior that relies on vocal communication, right? If someone has trouble walking, we might not choose an alternative behavior that requires them to walk. Does this make sense to you? So our individualized behavior support plan needs to, and the alternative behavior needs to reflect the person's strengths. Yeah, it has to be doable by the person. Because the idea here, guys, is you want to pick an alternative behavior that's as least effortful for the person as possible. Right? So that's your first step with the DRA, that the person's actually able to do it with as least effort as possible. The more difficult the alternative behavior is, the more unlikely that they're going to be able to complete this, to learn this new behavior or to maintain this new behavior. And possibly, the problem behavior is less effortful for them. So they're going to default to that problem behavior over and over again because the alternative we're teaching is too difficult for that person. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, and then of course and then that's the behavior part of it. The consequence part of it is we're going to minimize reinforcement for the problem behavior. And we talked about two other strategies we may think about implementing: extinction and punishment, right? But the idea with the DRA, especially working with adults, is that we're going to try to increase reinforcement for the alternative behavior and decrease reinforcement for the problem behavior. And why don't, and you might ask me what? Why don't we just use extinction? Extinction makes sense. We're going to withhold reinforcement for the problem behavior and deliver it for the alternative behavior, which is a possibility. Recommended, could be recommended by a BCBA. But the problem is there's unwanted effects of extinction that we need to consider. And it could lead to aggression. It could lead to maybe things you guys heard of before: extinction bursts, which is just an increased rate of the problem behavior occurring. And I always think of myself at the vending machine, right? We put the money in and we press a button. This is a behavior that's been reinforced over and over again. And now we put the money in and we press the button and nothing comes out. What are we likely to do? What behaviors might we have when now this previously reinforced behavior led to extinction? Shake the machine. Extinction-induced aggression. What else might we do? Push the button over and over again. Slam that button. And that's an extinction burst. Increase the rate of the behavior that led to reinforcement in the past. What else? Yeah. We may kick the machine. Extinction-induced aggression. What else might we do? Try again. Yeah, of course. Extinction burst. It could produce an extinction-induced behavioral variability too, where our behaviors might change. And this could reinforce a behavior that may not be needed. You know, like, and they give the example about the vending machine. They'd be like, someone may come in and be like, hey, this is like a rule-governed behavior now, where they're like, hey, you have to push that 3 times. On the 3rd push, you hold it down. And then you do that, and then boom, the soda comes out. Now, every time you go to that machine, you're likely to engage in that 3-press procedure to get the soda out, right? But what the point of this whole story is to explain that there's unwanted effects of extinction. And when we go into work with families, caregivers, day programs, wherever we are, if we recommend extinction strategies, we can bite ourselves in the foot, because we got called into a case to deal with a challenging behavior, and using extinction is likely to make the problem worse at first. And we're going to lose buy-in. We're going to lose buy-in from the caretakers. We're going to say, you came in, and this is what I hear sometimes, you came in and made things worse. You made things worse, and we lose a lot of our buy-in. You have a question?
Well, when you're developing that buy-in and explaining what you have in the BSP, I mean, granted, giving them a warning won't solve all their issues, and they're still going to blame you, but at least you can put it out there ahead of time to reduce.
I love that. Give a warning. Give a warning. Yeah, let them know, hey, we're going to use extinction. And I'm not saying you can never use extinction. What if we had a VIP who's constantly flipping the lights on and off? No history of aggression. No history of aggression, right? We may recommend, and always talk to your BCBA regarding these procedures before you implement them, to do what to withhold. And the reinforcing variable here, what's maintaining the behavior, is automatic positive reinforcement. They enjoy the light sensation they're receiving from flicking on and off the lights. How can we put that behavior on extinction? Yeah, unscrew the light bulb, take the light bulb out. Exactly correct. So in this case, with no history of aggression, we explained, and we want to make sure we explain all our procedures to the caretakers to make sure they're okay with it. That's social validity training that we talk so much about. So, very good point. So we are able to use extinction, but many times when we're getting called into a case because of a challenging behavior, the best approach is to minimize reinforcement for problem behavior, guys. You're going to avoid all those problems that go along with extinction. You're going to avoid the kicking, the hitting, the property destruction, the injurious behavior. And we're going to pour on the reinforcement for the alternative behavior that we're teaching. Does that make sense to you guys? Density of reinforcement favors the alternative. We're going to deliver all the good stuff for the alternative behavior. And of course, again, in another way, maximize reinforcement for the desirable behavior, minimize reinforcement for the problem behavior. And guys, this is the go-to. This is what you should be thinking about. ABC data sheet. So when you guys are doing collection on problem behaviors, this is what you should be using, not this exact form, well, a form that's similar, an ABC data sheet. And why am I showing you guys this now? Because as I collect data, what goes in this section is going to be, if a behavior continues to occur, a problem behavior, what goes in this section is probably what? Yes, the reinforcement, right? So that's a clue to my success in my behavior support plan. I'm going to use this information in the consequence section and realize that this is reinforcing for this individual. And remember, reinforcement is different from everyone. Some people like to be called on in class, Brandon and Deanna. Other people may not, right? So, and why? Now I change your contingencies. Now I called you out, Deanna. But the point of this is to realize that everyone's reinforcements are different and based on our learning history, right? So, and there's ways we could kind of uncover what is reinforcing for this individual. Not everyone likes social attention, right? Not everyone likes playing basketball. Not everyone likes going to the mall, especially our sad mall. Right, me too.
They're all on playpens and you can play with them. I go to the mall in Hazleton just for that.
And the malls?
All the time, right, Erica?
And the mall in Scranton has the aquarium, which is pretty cool. We need something like that in our mall. So I'm going to use this information that's in the consequence section and use it to my advantage. I am going to dish out whatever this is for the new alternative I'm making. For the alternative behavior I'm promoting, I should say. And I'm going to minimize this consequence section for the problem behaviors that are going to be occurring. And that would be great to include in the consequence section of your behavior support plan. And this is the DRA in action. Does this make sense to you guys? I don't have to guess when I see the similar consequence occurs for a behavior that continues to happen. I could say, hey, this is an example of what? Starts with an R. Reinforcement. So I don't have to guess what's maintaining the behavior. I don't have to guess what's reinforcing for this individual. I could see it in the consequence over and over and over again. And I'm going to dish it out for the alternative behavior now. I'm going to dish it out for, and even I can make it even better perhaps. And maybe we think about an example. Maybe someone has a problem behavior when presented with a task, a difficult task, maybe a homework assignment, as an antecedent, and they engage in property destruction, ripping it up. And then what happens is people are like, I'm done. He's done with the homework. He can do whatever he wants. He always does this, right? So I might say, hey, this task is causing him to escape, is resulting in him escaping the task. So what can an alternative behavior be for this behavior? This person could speak as well. Just want to put that out there. Yes, we could teach them to ask for a break. So simple. This person has the skills to ask for a break. What kind of break can I give them? The best break possible. Taking that assignment away for a time and giving them their favorite toy to play with. Giving them their favorite activity, which is chess, by the way. This is about me. This is a story about me, guys. John. He probably invented chess. Yeah. John's gonna watch this video. I don't know if he will. So guys, this is the power of the consequence section in your ABC data sheet. And I could get into antecedent strategies as well, but that's for a different day to talk about. The consequences are what is maintaining this behavior. Use it for the alternative behavior. Minimize it for the problem behavior. And you are on the right track in your behavior support plan. The behavior part needs to be the alternative behavior needs to be effortless as possible when we're teaching the DRA. We need to make sure that the person has the skills to do this behavior we're trying to teach. It needs to be as effortless as possible. It needs to be less effortful than the problem behavior, or else we're likely to continue the problem behavior. Okay? Any questions about anything we talked about with the DRA? The other ones won't be as lengthy. This is just very important material. You guys have any questions? So on our behavior support plan, consequence strategies for problem behaviors are going to be minimizing reinforcing contingencies. Consequence strategies for the alternative behavior we're trying to teach is increasing reinforcement contingencies. So that is what should be on your behavior support plans. Go ahead. Yeah.
The consequence strategies would be the alternate behavior, but we're also putting in replacement behaviors into those. So would they be the same?
Yes, they are the same. I'm just using a different word. Alternative is equal to replacement. Thank you for the question. Alternative is equal to replacement.
And that's why I think when we do our behavioral support plans with the template, there's what to do when so-and-so does the appropriate behavior compared to what to do when so-and-so has challenging behaviors.
But there's also a replacement.
Right. Well, so like taking a break, that would be like where you talk about how to teach that strategy. Does that make sense? Like that's the teaching section. The consequence part is after that has done, what do you do in each situation?
Yes, and I need to repeat the question because they probably can't hear you on the microphone. So make sure I do that. So any other questions regarding this? So on your behavior support plan, your target behaviors for replacement are the alternative behavior we're speaking about here. Okay, let's continue, please. Differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors, or the DRI, is the second differential reinforcement strategy we may recommend in our behavior support plan. And I like to use the word impossible. It helped me remember it on my BCBA exam. But it's actually called incompatible. And why is it called impossible? Well, we're going to reinforce a desirable behavior. And when this behavior is unique because it makes the problem behavior, oh, and he used the word impossible. I love that. I didn't know that. Impossible to complete. So we have someone that's picking their skin, for instance. I could reinforce a behavior like putting their hands in their pocket. Hey, when they're walking in the hallways, they're likely, that's the antecedent, they're likely to pick skin. So now I'm going to, while they're in the hallway, I'm going to reinforce putting their hands in their pocket. I'm going to give a lot of that reinforcement for putting their hands in their pocket. Can you guys think of another idea here? Go ahead.
Upstairs that would go around and scratch people and walk by, and I think they chose to see if they could put like some kind of sensory toy.
I love it. Occupying the hands. You know, in schools, I might recommend to carry the hall pass. The hall pass. It's like it's unbelievably powerful. Make it as big as possible. Make that thing, put some weights on that thing. You know what I mean? To carry that around. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
And it's not new anymore, but the pop-up became very popular with a lot of our VIPs upstairs that like to either reach out and grab people, touch people, even in some aggressive behaviors. Especially one of the ones that has a little in order or by color, it would keep him busy so he wasn't reaching out. We were trying to hit you.
That's right. So incompatible behaviors. We're going to reinforce a behavior that makes the problem behavior impossible to do. And a lot of them we talked about involve occupying the hands. You know, someone calls out in class. I know this isn't a fan favorite for teachers. Maybe gum might help stop that behavior a bit, might lower the occurrence of that behavior. I don't know. We can get creative with this DRI procedure. The more you think about it, the more it makes sense, though, to implement a strategy like the DRI to help stop behaviors that are occurring, make the problem behavior impossible to do, because we're reinforcing an alternative behavior that prevents the problem behavior from occurring. Okay, and we have an example here, which is out of the screen a little bit, but I think we can manage. Problem behavior is out of seat during class. So what we're going to do is reinforce what? Sitting in the seat. This isn't rocket science here, guys. We make it as simple as possible in our behavior support plans. How do you think we could reinforce this behavior over this behavior, considering the last lesson? Go ahead. If I would say providing whatever the consequence is for this problem behavior. It could be access to tangibles, right? For instance, I love your example. That's totally correct for attention. But say we're thinking about a behavior that's maintained by access to robot toy. Exactly right. Absolutely. And I'm going to give maybe 13 robot toys for sitting in the seat. They only get one for getting out of seat. Right? All right, let's continue. Any questions on that? So these are the best practices, the DRA and the DRI. This is the golden goose. This is the bread and butter of our behavior support plans, the best consequence strategies that ABA could offer. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what John says. So we want to select the desired behavior that's easy, which we mentioned already. Less response effort. That's why we want to make this as easy as possible. What is easy for each person? Well, you have to know their skills. You have to know what they're all about. You have to know what they're good at to recommend an alternative behavior. If possible, select the desired behavior that's presently in the VIP skill set. I could John taught me all this, and now I'm just regurgitating it. Well, I'm like saying it before I even get to the next line. I'm like, I bet that's what John's going to say next. Reinforce immediately and constantly at the onset. So, and we have a reinforcement training upcoming. But reinforcement is the most powerful when it happens immediately. And it happens certainly or consistently. Right? So we want to make sure we are providing reinforcement immediately for behaviors. Behaviors that we think could be maintained in the future aren't as effective as reinforcement that's delivered more immediately. And we're going to get into that in another training. Any questions about the DRA or the DRI? Does it make sense? Will you guys use it in your practice? I'm glad. All right, let's continue. The DRO. Oh, there's other strategies. The DRO. What is a DRO? Well, we're going to, and let me give you a little history lesson on the DRO. This was kind of like the beginning of differential reinforcement. It was implemented mainly in prison systems and places like that to help try to maintain good behavior from inmates or other correctional institutions. And it's unfortunate this is where it was derived from. But it's kind of evolved since then into the DRA and the DRI, which is great. So the DRO, and what they would say is, hey, don't join a gang, and we're going to give you money at the commissary or the market or whatever. Don't get into a fight with your cellmate, and we're going to give you cigs. Right? Don't smuggle stuff into the jail, and we're going to give you copy. We're going to give you strong reinforcers in the prison, right? That's what we're going to do. So we're going to reinforce for the absence of problem behaviors for a specified time period. What is the initial problem you guys think about with this kind of procedure? Perhaps.
Would it maintain
Okay.
You just had to use that word.
I like it. The problem with this is, how does reinforcement operate? Well, how does it operate? We need to see alternative behaviors. We're reinforcing behaviors that involve action, that interact with the involvement. We're reinforcing behaviors that aren't occurring, the absence. So what behaviors might be we reinforcing?
The behaviors that didn't exist.
Behaviors that are occurring in the moment reinforcement is delivered, which could be other problem behaviors that we didn't identify in our behavior support plan. Right? Hey, they didn't engage in hitting during this interval, but they're off task, and I'm still delivering reinforcement. Now I'm reinforcing a problem behavior, perhaps. Right? So the DRO is flawed in that way, that we're reinforcing things, behaviors that in the absence of behaviors, but we're delivering reinforcement for possibly other problem behaviors. No alternative, right? That's the problem here, guys. And that's not, reinforcement operates, and if we understand how reinforcement operates, we're reinforcing problem behaviors perhaps, or other behaviors that, and that's where the other comes from, that we might not find desirable. This prisoner could be engaged in making some booze in their toilet, but they didn't join a gang, right? Sorry for the outlandish examples. DRO is whole session. So it's like, hey, we only have one opportunity to reinforce. DRO specifies period of time to be problem behavior free. So we'll say, hey, we're going to deliver reinforcement every 5 minutes in the absence of problem behaviors. Reset or non-reset time intervals if problem behavior occurs. So if a problem behavior occurs, we're going to reset that time interval. They do it at 4:59, we're pushing it back to 0. And now they have to go that 5 minutes again without a problem behavior. We could do a fixed time interval or variable time interval, and that's kind of getting into the schedules of reinforcement, which we're not going to talk about today. Momentary interval reinforcement, if no problem behavior occurs at the end of the interval, which is kind of our momentary time sampling data collection procedure. And we're not going to get into all these fixed momentary or variable momentary are other examples of a differential reinforcement of other behaviors. Should we use this in our behavior support plan? Yes, we should. But we have to use it in concert with a DRA or DRI procedure. We would never use this procedure in isolation. Okay? This procedure it's bad, it's okay, I shouldn't say it's bad, it's okay, but we should not use it in isolation. We need to go to the DRA, DRI procedures, and we can use this as well. We can use this idea as well. And many people do. But they always use it in concert or in addition with the other two strategies we previously mentioned. So I don't mind seeing this in your behavior support plan, but I need to see the DRA and the DRI in action as well, or else this isn't good enough on its own for reasons we discussed. Bless you. Any questions about the DRO? It's still an evidence-based procedure, conceptually systematic. We would use it, but we would only use it with the other strategies. Okay? Differential reinforcement of other behaviors. Okay, this is just going to talk more about it, probably exactly what I just said. Select an appropriate initial time interval for reinforcement. And a lot of times I'll record how often the behavior is happening currently, and I'm going to deliver reinforcement just before the behavior occurs to help get ahead of it. Mean inter-response time, that's what I just said, inter-response time. So that's what I'm recommending. Gradually increase the interval. As the person starts to have success, we're going to increase the interval. We're going to fade this plan away into oblivion. And, of course, what I mentioned already, combine with other procedures. Combine with the DRA and the DRI. Go ahead.
When you say gradually increase the interval, you would say, like you go from 20 seconds to then 40
Mm-hmm.
seconds, try to still get ahead of it, but increase.
Yes. And the idea is to fade it into oblivion, fade it away so we don't need to be doing this anymore. Right. And usually what are we targeting? Problem behaviors with the DRL. We have a target behavior of self-injury. We're going to deliver the Game Boy they do it every 5 minutes. We're going to deliver the Game Boy every 4 minutes, perhaps, for a quick Mario level. Okay? Any questions about the DRL? This final procedure is differential reinforcement of low rates. We're going to decrease the overall frequency, but not eliminate. So this is for behaviors that are targeted for reduction, or weakening is the word that we use in our behavior support plans. So not for replacement, but for weakening. That it's not a terrible behavior, but it's a behavior that's occurring at high rates, for instance, or too long, for instance. And that's why it's detrimental. Can you guys think of a behavior that's okay, but if it occurs at high rates, it could be a problem? Going to the bathroom, yeah. So we have a student, and we've seen this in school. We may have fell into this trap ourselves, where we hate science class. I never did. I loved all my classes, right, guys? Everyone. I'm just kidding. I did not. I love music class, that's for sure. I really did. Statistics, I loved it. So good. ABA doesn't use statistics, so I was glad to know that. I was glad to learn that. Made me even have more buy-in for ABA. So yeah, leaving the room to go to the bathroom. That's not a bad behavior. That's not a behavior we want to eliminate. That would be pretty terrible to do that to a person, right? But it's happening too often. So what are we going to do? Oh, and these are the 3 types: full session, interval, and spaced responding, which I had to get very good at that for my BCBA exam. And we're not going to get into all the details of that, but we're going to continue. Oh, we are going to get into the details of all that. Full session. Reinforcement if below or equal to the predetermined number for the entire session. So say, hey, we're okay with them asking twice to go to the bathroom. And if they do, we're going to deliver reinforcement for asking just 2 times or less, or fewer, I should say. But if they ask 3 or more, we're not delivering reinforcement anymore. Interval, same idea, but we're going to split it into predetermined number of intervals, equal intervals. Same idea for space. Reinforcement is provided if separated from the previous response by a length of time. Hey, we don't mind them asking every 30 minutes, but if they ask every 20 minutes, we're not going to deliver the reinforcement. These are just some examples of the DRL, low rate behavior. Continue, please. It's the best practice. Oh, these are the best practices for DRL, and it's the best practice as well. Schedule selection for best outcome determined by baseline data. So just like all the other procedures, and we're going to have an assessment training as well, any good behavior support plan starts with the assessment. Starts with collecting data about the problem behavior, so we could dial in our strategies the best as possible. So our schedule selection for best outcome is determined by baseline data. So we might say, hey, this person, if I didn't know, say I got called into a classroom for this problem, and I'm like, we're going to use DRL. Well, I don't know how often they're asking now. So I don't know where to take it. I don't know what's good, what's moving this person in the right direction, and what might be moving in the wrong direction. So I need to do an assessment. And it's true for all of these procedures. Or anything we do needs to start with an assessment. Don't just walk in and give interventions. The first step for anything is to do an assessment. Feedback to the learner to assist with their monitoring behavior. So let them know, get them involved. All right, let's continue, please. And that is, a lot of this information was from our Cooper book, Applied Behavior Analysis. Do you guys have any questions about differential reinforcement and what we're trying to put into our behavior support plans? Did you guys learn some stuff? Will it help you? You guys have any questions regarding this material? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for your attention. I'll be here at the end of the conference to answer any questions. $5 each. Just kidding. I'm here for you guys if you need anything. It was great talking with you today, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your week.